Hello guys and welcome to another, fell over there. That's a good start. Hello guys and welcome to another video. In today's video we're talking about, are we already in the next financial crisis? 2008, most of us watching this channel are going to remember this. I certainly do. The credit crunch, banks going under. Well, we're having a little bit of a replay of that at the moment. And today, what I want to do, because a bit of it's been hushed up by the media, I think this Credit Suisse thing is a big bit of news, right? And it's not really in the news. And I don't think it's in the news because they don't want you to know what's going on. I think this is all quite dangerous. And today, what I wanted to do is talk about why this has really got me thinking about my strategy, what I'm doing. Is it going to change what I'm doing? Probably not, right? At the end of the day, I believe in living below my means, making sure that I've got lots of surplus cash at the end of every single month, investing as much of that as I possibly can in index funds and using the dollar cost averaging strategy. So I'm just doing that every single month. And if the markets go up or down, it doesn't matter to me because I'm doing it every single month. But I do think for some people, this is going to really affect them. And I think it's important that we consider and talk about what's going on. So the first thing I want to talk about is giving me a like, because I forgot about asking that. So give this video a big like, it really does help me out, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to be paying out a subscriber dividend portfolio. There's $9,500 in there, there's probably 11.5 by the time this video comes out, and hopefully you guys can win a bit of that cash from me, and we can take part in that passive income journey together. But living standards at the moment, they are dropping, okay? I think it's at the moment they're saying 7% of a drop in living standards in the UK. And the reason behind that is inflation and wage growth. So inflation's currently running around 10%, has been for a long time, 8, 9, 10, 11%, something like that for the last 6 to 12 months. And because inflation has been running hot, we are looking at an environment where if wage growth does not keep up with that, then generally speaking, you have less goods or services that you can afford to buy with your money. So if we take a very simple example of a household that maybe earns £2,000 a month, and they managed to get a 5% pay rise, well, they now earn £2,100 a month. Now, if, however, their cost, i.e. the amount that they were spending was £2,000, so they were just breaking even, and that's gone up by 10%, well, now it's £2,200 their cost. So they're now making a loss. So this is where the squeeze on living standards start. So if I run through that one more time really quickly, it used to be that they earned £2,000 and they spent £2,000. Now they've got a pay rise to £2,100, but because the cost of living's increased through inflation, £2,200 is their new bill. And obviously it's not as linear as that. There is a big weighting towards food, there's a big weighting towards housing. So again, people who maybe don't have mortgages, people who don't rent, they are going to be better off than people who are generally at the lower end of the wealth spectrum, right? The people who rent and the people who don't own the property or own a property with a mortgage. So that is essentially what's been going on, and that is affecting everybody in the UK. And even if you're wealthy, it's going to affect you because the businesses you own are going to be able to supply less services. You're going to have to make cutbacks. You look at companies like Facebook, you look at companies like Amazon, they're making huge staff cuts. You're going to see that play out a lot more. And I know that Just Eat just delivered, excuse my pun, Just Eat just delivered, 1,700 job losses for delivery drivers in the UK, representing about 15% of their workforce. So a huge amount. So I think that there's much more of that to come, and that feeds into number 4 on here, which was unemployment is starting to rise. Now there's only the precursor to this, but what I think will probably happen is this will speed up because companies tend to try and hold on as long as they possibly can. And I've been speaking to a lot of people who tell me that the companies that they're working on either have hiring freezes at the moment, i.e. if somebody leaves, they're not going to replace them. They're going to make do with the staff they have, or they are actively doing appraisal systems and any sort of active way to chop out as much of the dead wood as they possibly can. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for a company, right? If you can get rid of the bottom 10% that maybe even have a negative effect on your business, that's not a bad thing to do. But for society, with unemployment rising, it is a negative effect because it means that more people are out of work, means the benefits bill is higher, and at a time where interest rates are rising, and I deliberately missed this out because I wanted to come back to this, this. The national debt has interest payments that are linked to the Bank of England's set interest rate. And because of that, what you find is the amount of money the government has to raise also increases. So it's a bit of this negative spiral, if you can imagine. You know, we need more money to service the debt, but we can't get more money because people aren't getting paid more. And it's this negative spiral. And people are spending less, and people are doing less, and it's just this negative spiral of shitness. Give me another adjective. Just a negative spiral. It's just a negative spiral. It's bad. It's not good for you. So that's one side of things, right? This is what's going on for people. Now, this is the more sinister and bit that's been hushed up, I think. SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, they essentially went bust and had to be bought out. In the UK, they're bought out by HSBC. In America, they went into their government-based scheme. They have since been bought out of that. But what happened, essentially, was they had a lot of deposits from customers, and they couldn't really make any money out of it because they couldn't do a number of loans with the money. So essentially, they had this big amount of cash that they had to do something with. So they did something safe and bought treasury bonds. But as interest rates started to rise, the value of those bonds went down because they had treasury bonds maybe at 2%. And if now you could get a treasury bond at 5%, well, guess what? The 2% one's worth much less. So as people started to want their money, they had to sell these bonds at a loss. So as they had to sell the bonds at a loss, it suddenly became apparent they're not going to be able to cover everything off, and essentially they had to go into, I think, a forced kind of state in America. I don't know what it's exactly called, but it's essentially a regulator came in, looked after it. In the UK, HSBC just bought it for £1. But what does that tell you? It tells you that these banking institutions, some of them are just not set up for a higher interest rate environment. And then you look at Credit Suisse, and this is the important one because this is a big European bank. Now, they have recently been bought by UBS at a very big discount, underwritten by the central bank, and the central bank is talking to UBS, and it's all a little bit hush-hush, but essentially they got themselves into some real trouble, and it looked like they might topple as well. So they've been bought out by UBS, and I think that this is probably one of the biggest bits of news that isn't news that's out there at the moment. This is something we need to be aware of. This is sort of Lehman Brothers type stuff. These are big institutions getting into trouble. And the question is, who's next? So I think anybody watching this, anybody who's building wealth, anybody who's entrepreneurial, first of all, be careful where you put your money. Because Silicon Valley Bank, when they went into this forced sort of state by the government in America, they froze the accounts of anybody who had over 250 grand. They have since made sure that the people and the companies can access their money. But imagine being a company and having your accounts frozen and you not being able to pay your staff. So I think having multiple bank accounts, first of all, as a person, an individual, and as a business is important and is a lesson that we can all learn from that scenario. And it's easy to say, it's not going to happen to me, but if it does happen to you, you'll wish you had. So I personally think that that's a very important thing. And I know that one of our businesses at the moment has a only single bank, and we're going to make sure we've got two. By the end of the month, we're going to have 2 banks as an absolute minimum. Personally, I've got about 5 or 6. So I'm personally okay. However, I do think it's important for businesses as well. The other thing is, if you're going to be banking and you're going to have these positions, remember, like in the UK, deposits are only insured up to, I think, about £80,000. You know, spread your money and to spread your risk. But the overriding theme from all of this is negativity. It's, this is bad, what is next? So for me, the lesson and the overriding lesson for all of this is always to build as much of a financial moat around myself so that I can overcome whatever adversity happens. So my plan doesn't really change. I'm still going to live below my means. Absolutely. I'm going to earn more than I spend. I'm then going to invest the difference. I'm not going to change my investment strategy because whilst this is all negative, we know what central bank's power has. They can come in and rescue anybody. They can pump money out into the economy. They can do emergency rate cuts. They can do like QE level 5 or whatever it will be at this point. There's so many things that they can do that just affects the markets. And we don't know when that's going to happen or if it's going to happen. So dollar cost averaging for me in index funds is the only sensible way to invest in the stock market. In property, all of this just makes me want to negotiate even harder. It makes me want to get a discount. But property prices in the UK are rising and have been for the last 2 months. And agents are saying more buyers are coming to the market. anecdotally. The evidence is not coming through yet on the numbers, but they always have a lag factor. But I'm telling you, I'm speaking to agents, they're saying they're busy, and they are. But I think if anybody watching this wants to take anything away, it's build that financial stability around you. Make sure you've got cash, make sure you've got multiple banks, and make sure you're investing. Everybody should be an investor. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. What do you think is gonna happen with this banking saga? I'm massively interested. I will see you on the next video. And who's next? Who's next that I don't know about? You guys let me know. I'll see you soon. Take care. Cheers. Cheers, guys. You wanted me to say cheers, guys, didn't you? I was going to, and then I didn't, but I was like, oh.